Hey, this is Ace from Aeraco, and you're listening to Antihero Online.
First off, this is your debut record, correct?
No, this is our debut record on a major label. We released an album, maybe like 2.5, about 2.5 years ago. We released an album in January or February-ish of 2015, but this is our debut on our label.
Oh, nice. And the album is all DIY. You guys produce it, you guys funded it, everything is all you. What kind of troubles do you guys run into when producing the record and doing everything DIY without any outside help?
The kind of troubles you would much rather run into as opposed to having outside help. It's just, these are things they're things that you learn, by kind of falling on your face and learning how to record things and do things and kind of maneuver around certain issues. So the thing is you either have outside help, and you get a very large percentage of your royalties taken away from you, and you get a large percentage of what your creative input might be, possibly not maybe taken away from you, but it's no longer a band thing. You're including other people, and there's more fingers in the pie, and the creative process just kind of gets a little screwed with. So when it comes to what we do, when you come and see us live, you're hearing the exact stuff that we wrote, that we put on the album. There's no producers, there's no record label that's pulling any strings or anything like that. You're coming to see a band that has written, produced, and recorded everything that they did. Everything's organic, and to me, that's true rock and roll. I'm not going to hire someone to come in and tell me what to write, because I'm only going to perpetuate what they continue to produce. And there's nothing wrong with bands that do that. There's a lot of big bands that do it, and there's a lot of bands that do it that I listen to and that I love. But when it comes to Aeraco, that's just not the formula that we use. So when you do that, things might take a little bit more time, just because you don't have someone there that's constructing the songs and giving you feedback. You're your own system of checks and balances to make sure that your writing is fluid and the song has good flow. And then when it comes to the recording process, that's a whole different, that's a whole another animal. Fortunately, our bassist, Beast, that's what he went to school for. So he's all the sound engineering, all that stuff, that's what he loves, it's what he does. So fortunately, that made the DIY process a lot easier, and in-housing that made it less expensive than it could have been. And then mastering, that was definitely, we had Brian Gardner do that, Brian Gardner's a really kick-ass mastering engineer. So that we definitely outsourced. But by that time, in the sense of a mastering engineer, to anybody who may listen that doesn't know, a mastering engineer has nothing to do with the writing process, has nothing to do with the recording process. He's mastering everything at the end. Everything before that is just writing. You sit there, you come up with a cool riff, you write the song, and then you sit there, you record it, you listen to it, you see what kind of changes you want to make, and then you make them, and then you cross the bridges as you get to them as far as the problems, and you solve them as they come your way.
And the mastering engineer, he's pretty much just getting all the levels right. That way the song doesn't hit peaks and valleys where the guitars overpower the vocals.
For the most part, that's what I believe. That's what I understand. I wish my bassist were here, because he would be able to answer it a lot better than I could. I'm a player, man. I don't understand any of that, goofy, like, gigahertz shit. I don't understand any of that. I don't claim to. I plead the fifth on that one, man. But from what I do understand, from when Brian Gardner was sending us stuff back and forth, because there was this period of time where we gave him our single, Baptized by Fire. That's the first thing we gave him, because we put a video out before the album came out. Mm-hmm. He would kind of ping-pong what he was doing back and forth off of us. And there were very few times that he would do that, because he got it right very quickly. But I think he sent us one thing back, we listened to it, and we're like, that's a little bright, let's kind of, we need a little darker, a little a little damper, and we sent it back to him, and he sent it back to us, and we're like, dude, you hit it right on the button, you got it, and that's pretty much the way that the album flowed through there. So as far as I know on the mastering standpoint, yeah, it's kind of making sure that everything's listener friendly. The mix is sounding good. It's constant throughout the album, and just listening wise, it's flowing the way that it should. Like I said, my bassist would. I hope he doesn't kill me when he listens to this. Like, dude, you messed up. That's not it at all. Hopefully, I didn't miss the mark. But from my understanding, that's what Brian had to do.
This is one thing that I've been talking to a lot of upcoming bands and DIY bands about. The digital age has made it a lot easier for bands like yourself to be able to get the music out to listeners without the need for major record companies. Is that the same for your band?
I don't think it's the same for any band. I can only buy into that 50-50 as far as the statement goes, because now what people don't seem to understand is that the worth of something is based on the rarity of what that something is, and that basic principle is called inflation. When someone says, oh, if we're in a massive amount of debt as a country, why can't we just print more money? You can't do that. If you do that, the worth of the dollar eventually starts to decrease, so your buying power comes down. Well, back in, when we were recording and you needed a record label for that, and they were controlling the distribution, there was a rarity to it. That inflation hadn't occurred yet because that demand and that platform was very different. Well, now you have a significant inflation in artists. Everybody has a song on the internet, man. Everybody has an album out. Everybody's in a band. Everyone that I know, yeah, check me out. Go here, go here. And from the bottom of my heart, I do want to listen to them, but we live in a very capitalistic society where you're constantly bombarded by the internet. Click on this, the TV, check this out, bands, listen to me here. As a society, if we gave everybody 5 minutes of our time throughout the day that wanted our time to hear about a pitch, we would have no time left to ourselves.
Yeah, true.
So at this point, it's absolutely made it easier to get online, but it has not made it easier by any sense to get heard, because there's a lot more people that are just dying to get heard and dying to get discovered. Now you have streaming services, which are just, it's just difficult to get heard. Everybody's on Pandora, everybody's on Spotify. So now, to me, one of the only things that you can do to separate yourself as an artist is just to be who you are. Don't claim to be anything else other than what you are. Aeraco, we're a rock band, man. We don't use any backtracks. We don't use any... there's no backtracks. There's no games. There's no gimmicks to the show. We don't put masks on or anything like that. And that's not to say that other bands can't do it. I'm a huge Corey Taylor fan. I'm a huge Slipknot fan. But when it comes to our show, we're just a rock band, man. And if your stick is to wear a mask, then stick to that. If your stick is, hey, we're just a rock band coming here to rock melt the skin off your face, then stick to that. That's the only way to differentiate it. But other than that, as far as the DIY age, it's much easier to get online, but with that comes a significant cost, which is the inflation of artists who are dying to get heard, which inevitably is going to make it more difficult at the end of the day. So I'm not saying we should go back to the archaic way of doing things, because Lord knows if the record labels had their way, they would love that. I love the fact that I can do things on my own terms, and I can produce what I want to produce and write what I want to write, and my record label respects that and they advocate that. But there's definitely some trades that come with that luxury.
And one of the things that'll help you stick out from the pack is especially being original bands that create original music that people can either relate to or just have a good time to.
For sure, yeah. I think that's what we write. When I go to a concert, I want to have a good time. I want to let loose. I want to forget about just anything that's worrying me. I want to get lost in the music. So it's very much like, James Hetfield and M. Shadows had a very similar theory when they came to this. They said, look, don't write for radio, don't write for a hit, just write what you want to write. Stay true to the material that you want to write, and you're going to find your audience, man. Just keep plugging away, keep chugging away, and you're going to find that audience. Just stay true. Don't try and write for a specific group if it's not what you want to write, because then you're just going to wind up sounding like the same, you know. It's just what you write. Hey, maybe if you want to sound derivative, that's fine. We don't as a band, but you know, we write what we want to write. It just so happens that what we do want to write has a commercial sound to it. And it does have an appealing sound to people, and it has a melodic structure. But you're absolutely right, man. If you want to break through, then write things that are relatable, that people can have a good time to. And if your passion is a niche market, then go for it. But if you want to separate yourself, then, you know, try and be relatable where people can gravitate to what your message is.
Let's talk about the album a little bit. People
Sure.
who have never heard of you guys, what can they expect from the new release?
What they can expect from the new release, just hard rock, man. I can't, you know, music is subjective. It's hard for me to tell you what to listen to or what to listen for. But like I said, there's no bullshit to the music that we write. You're going to just hear hard rock up in front, in your face, cool melodies, catchy hooks. Me and Matt really pride ourselves on being big sticklers when it comes to guitar. So, you know, just harmonized guitar solos, like I said, cool riffs, catchy hooks, lyrical content that is just cool. It'll get your adrenaline going. Just don't listen. Well, definitely listen to it in your car. Just try and refrain from driving fast, because it definitely advocates speed and adrenaline and energy. So that's definitely what we go for. What we do is we combine. We're all really big old school '80s metal fans. That's what originally got me into it. One of my favorite albums of all time is Master of Puppets.
Yep.
And our other guitar player is a huge old school Pantera fan. My drummer's a really big Rush fan, Avenged Sevenfold fan, Motley Crue fan, big Tommy Lee guy. My bass player is a really big AC/DC fan, loves AC/DC. So we really like that old school stuff, but we like that new school production, the just a clean produced album where it sounds like it's it's just a well done album. So I think that what people also can expect is the old school songwriting format of, you know, we still do guitar solos, man. We still do catchy hooks and a melodic structure, but a modern element to it where it's a very clean album when it comes to the production element and then the writing element as well. It's still heavy and it still has that modern edge to it. So not to say that old school albums aren't clean and don't sound good from a production standpoint, but you definitely have the best of both worlds when it comes to old school metal and kind of that modern rock sort of sound.
Yeah, that was you hit the nail on the head. That was the question that I was going to ask you, is where the influences came from.
Well, they're all over the place. I think our bassist Bruce is, like I said, he's a really big AC/DC fan, so he likes staying in the pocket and he likes driving that rhythmic section, and that definitely comes from AC/DC. Those guys have I'm a huge AC/DC fan in itself. The album Highway to Hell is one of the reasons that I got into music in the first place. So, love pretty much everything that they've done. You look at Bon Scott as a singer, Brian Johnson as a singer, Malcolm, Angus, just all those guys, phenomenal players. But bassist Beast is a really big AC/DC fan, so that's mainly where he gets a lot of his that driving bass playing from. And then I know for sure our drummer Misfit, really big Rev fan, loves Avenged Sevenfold, so he loves the Rev. Big Neil Peart guy, loves Neil Peart. Michael Portnoy is another one, likes Michael Portnoy a lot. And then Tommy Lee. Our other guitar player, Matt, huge Marty Freeman guy, loves Marty Freeman, and I'm pretty excited because I think we're actually going to wind up seeing him soon here. If he hasn't already played, I hope he hasn't, but I know he's doing the Wall of Sound tour, and he's actually going to be here in Chicago, not too far off, but huge Marty Friedman guy, loves Dimebag, and then on my end, Randy Rhoads, big influence, Sinister from Avenged Sevenfold, Zach Wilde's another big one, Stevie Ray Vaughan's another huge one. Grew up on the blues, so it's hard to get, it's hard not to mention Stevie Ray Vaughan whenever you're talking about the blues. And then singing wise, James Hetfield's a big one. David Lee Roth's a big one. Joe Elliott from Def Leppard's a big one. Love Joe Elliott. And then Freddie Mercury. So influences, you kind of have this eclectic group of influences that kind of range from old school to new school guys, but it all kind of fits in the same pocket.
The next thing that I kind of want to touch on, the first single, Baptized by Fire, you guys released a music video. What was the premise or the idea that kind of like hit you when you heard the song and made you want to create the video that you guys created?
You know, there's no, and it's tough because I'm a big nerd, man. I'm a big history fan. So some of this stuff might come from a historical event or something that we experienced that's related to a historical event. I'm not too sure if you've ever seen the movie Hoffa with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Great movie, directed by, I believe Danny DeVito directed that one. Jack Nicholson plays Jimmy Hoffa, and it's about the guy who unionized basically truck drivers together, and I think he was based out of like Detroit or somewhere in Michigan. And my grandfather was a Teamster right when Jimmy Hoffa was coming around, I believe, and my dad was a Teamster as well, so I was raised into a union, collective bargaining, gun-ho family. And you come into the music industry, and you experience similar to what, you know, old school workers go through. Constantly getting screwed out of pay, you know, having to work with promoters and talent buyers that aren't really the nicest of people to work with, and I'm using choice and kind words for it, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of sharks in this business. There's a lot of people who will take you for everything that you got if you let them. And there's no unionization of bands. There's no collective union or agreement amongst bands that will say, we're going to play for this and that's it. You kind of determine what your own worth is based on how you chart, how many records you sell, whatever the case may be. But there's no unionization amongst bands to say, hey, we're not going to play for free, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. There's none of that stuff. So at the end of the day, we're all on our own islands, and that's always confused me as to why that is. You know, a lot of bands, when we play with a lot of bands, sometimes they don't stay for the entire show, and that confuses me. Why would you not want to network? Why would you not want to gain a relationship with me? Hey, for all you know, if I'm playing in New York, if you network with me, I could easily get you a show in Chicago, but you choose not to do that. Now, they might have a management company, they might have a grandma that's sick, I don't know. But when it comes to that disconnect between some bands can make it difficult sometimes. So I always try to establish those relationships with people. Now, when it comes to our career, we've been baptized by fire all the way up until this point, man. All the connections we've made ourselves. Touring, we did it ourselves. There's no one that financed it. No one in this band has a sugar mama, even though that'd be really nice. You know, we don't have any of that. We finance it ourselves. And this is a really expensive habit, you know, so to consistently pay for this and tour, the only way that you're going to continuously kind of climb up that ladder is by making connections and by getting, excuse me for saying this, but just eating a shit sandwich every now and again, man. You have to in order to learn. So that's why we named this album Baptized by Fire, because when we released our first album, we're like, man, this is great stuff. This is going to help us go really far. And releasing our first album didn't change a fucking thing compared to when we didn't release Baptized by Fire. We're like, oh man, we're going to be on the map with this one, and this was going to do it. And it did. It gained us fans, and we got radio play, and we did all that, but nothing changed. There was no difference in respect when it came to what touring was going to give us. So we realized that at the end of the day, you just got to throw yourself in the fire, man. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to teach you. No one's going to show you. And even if they do, the only thing that's going to help you learn is by going out there and getting baptized by fire. There's no overall group of people who talk to each other and who help each other. There's none of that. The only way that you do that is by going out yourself, making those connections, getting baptized by fire, and building up your own network.
That's the damn truth when it comes to just about anything too. And it's not just musically, it's any career that you want to go in. If you kind of just learn on your own and deal with the struggles on your own, and it'll make you stronger in the long run to be able to fight through any adversity that faces you.
Well, that's actually what our first song off the album is about, Back with Vengeance. That was inspired by the movie Tombstone, when Kurt Russell, who played Wyatt Earp, said, "Tell him I'm coming for him and I'm bringing hell with me." And that was our mentality going from in between our first album to our second album. We're sitting there and we're like, man, these people do not know what we're capable of. You know, we're fighting so damn hard to be heard. And the people who are listening to us, we love you. But the people who are turning their back deliberately, you just don't know what we're capable of, man. And Back with Vengeance wraps that up where we're like, man, we feel like we're fucking back, and this song kicks ass, and this album is gonna rip your face off. So between that, Baptized by Fire, there's been a lot of lessons that we've learned, and you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, what business you're in. The only person that's going to make the decision, the only person that's going to make a difference and put that investment in you is you. So you got to do it.
You guys got a few live dates coming up. September 2nd. It's a little spotty in September, November. Do you have any larger plans for tours, or are you guys just going to kind of fly by now and, see how it goes, and if it happens, it happens?
So we're still planning the first leg of our tour, which is going to last from September till mid-November. So there will be dates that are coming in October as well. But you got the first week of September, we're in, I believe, Ohio. Then the second week of September, we're in Indiana. Then the third week, we're up in Wisconsin. Then we get a week off. October 6th, I think we'll be back here. We may have a few weeks off there, and then there's a possibility we will be in Michigan, Denver, and we will be in Sauget, which is southern Illinois, right outside of St. Louis. And then we will be doing another leg of a tour from February going till the cows come home, man. So unless, we're self-managed as well. We manage ourselves. There's no manager. There's no booking agent over here. We do everything ourselves as far as reaching out. And as crazy as it sounds, it's difficult to line up date by date by date by date by date, because we all have, like I said, it's a really expensive habit. So we all have day jobs to pay for this shit we do. So lining up date by date by date by date is just not feasible for us. So what we do is we figure out, based on what our publicist says and based on what our radio marketing guy says, based on where our best markets are at, that's where we try to attack. And then other markets that we want to build, just because we have people reaching out to us and saying, you guys got to come out here. And there's sometimes markets that we've never even intended on going to, that we just have people out there are like, dude, you got to come out here. So that kind of dictates where we go, and we plan based on where we'd like to head and what markets we want to start building up and where we might have some fan bases. So that helps us plan. But long-winded answer shorter, September to mid-November, we'll be touring with a few weeks off here and there, and then February kicks back up the kind of the really big dates where we're just basically going coast to coast, kicking ass, trying to promote the album as much as we can.
And this is looking forward to the future and next year. Are there any plans on going back into the studio anytime soon, working on some new stuff, maybe throwing some demos around, or are you guys just going to focus on this album, push it until you can't push it anymore, and then make a decision on when it's time to go back to the studio?
Oh, that's $1 million question. I can't say that we'll be going back to the studio. If I did that, our girlfriends would murder us at this point, because we've basically been ignoring them for like a year to record this album. But we've been spitballing ideas back and forth, man. Considering everything's DIY, it doesn't really take us much anymore to record a track if we've got a really good idea and it's laid down. So the landscape's kind of changing, man, the way that albums sell. Now there's a lot of bands. You look at Avenged Sevenfold's doing a lot of this. I think Foo Fighters starting to do this. There's another guy I just read an interview where he was talking about just basically changing kind of the game plan. Making a full-length album it's just difficult now, because what are you going to pay $10 for an album, or are you going to pay, $10 a month for 30,000 songs that you can get streaming? So it might be more feasible to do a single, or to start doing a few singles and releasing them over time, because it's not only about money, it's about what the fans are doing. Where are they getting their music? What are they listening to? We pay attention to all that stuff. It has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with what are the fans doing and what's most convenient for them to hear our stuff and to listen to our stuff. And if that means streaming, if that means they're listening to singles as opposed to grabbing albums, then we might do some singles. So we've been talking about it. There's a few ideas that are rolling around in the back of our heads. There's some riffs that we got going on right now. So that will not be happening at all between September to mid-November. We might try to hash something out between the holiday and between like the New Year's time. We might try and hop in the studio and kick one out as far as a single goes, and then spend some time mixing and mastering that to put it out sometime next year. We've also got some charity stuff that we might be doing too, with someone who I can't say who it is, but we're really, really going to try and get a much, much larger name attached to a song. And if I do get a chance to do that, we'll probably just be donating all the proceeds from that song to charity. So there's a couple things that we got going on, but mainly right now, it's mainly focused about Baptized by Fire and trying to promote the shit out of that as much as possible, and then sprinkling some cool stuff in between those dates.
And in between, just dropping a single here and there, it keeps fans' interest up. Instead of going away for a year or two and writing a new album and people kind of getting deterred and forgetting about you, you drop a single, 6 months down the road, and people are like, oh, these guys are still relevant.
It keeps it fresh, it keeps people, keeps them on their toes. And you're right, you used to be able to do that. People could, back in 86 or 87, you could drop Appetite for Destruction and sell 10 million copies and go, all right, we're going to go away for a year and we're going to go record an album and spend 12 months on recording an album, or spend 10 years trying to record Chinese Democracy. But, you have that ability to do that. Now, like I said, I keep going back to the landscape, but the landscape has changed for younger bands and for bands that are up and coming. You don't have that luxury of time, simply because the market is demanding, and most of your livelihood is going to come from touring and from, your merch, and that's what's going to support you. And at the end of the day, your music has to support what you're doing. So it's a really big deal to keep it interesting. Drop singles, do charity work, reach out to the communities that you're playing in. We tried to do stuff like last year when we played in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We tried to do some charity work out there, and we got to play on a news channel out there because we were doing some charity work. So we're always trying to do different stuff to keep people entertained, keep them curious as to what the hell we got going on. But at the end of the day, everything stays in a certain wheelhouse. Everything stays in a certain realm of what we write. We don't throw too many curveballs as far as writing, or do stuff that's too crazy, because at this point we're just we're too young. I think we need to develop more and plant our flag a little bit more of who we are before we start doing too many crazy things. So the singles that we will be releasing, they're not going to be anything nuts. They're going to be exactly what you would expect from Aeraco, typical, just hard rock, kick-ass music. And then once we start advancing that, we'll probably go for another full-length album. That's
pretty much everything that I have to ask you. Is there anything that I didn't touch on that you'd like to touch on?
I just want to say, to the people who have, supported us at this point and have joined the ranks, I can't express how humbling it is, because we get, there's emails that pile in, and there's people who reach out to us and who have heard us all over the world. That emails are coming in, and it's pretty crazy, because you sit there, and as a kid you dream of this. When I first picked up a guitar, I was like, man, I want to be the biggest and the best guitar player in the world, and you dream of this. And as you release your first album and your second album, and things start to move forward, and you're hearing from people in different parts of the world, and people are they're starting to hear you, you get to that moment and it's almost unbelievable. It's almost surreal where you're like, man, is this actually happening? People are actually listening to what I'm doing, you know? So to those people, we really, really, really appreciate it. We read all that stuff that comes in, and for the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate it. And to anybody else who hasn't, joined that rank yet, feel free to check us out, take a look, and we welcome in everyone with open arms, Ben. You can find us at aeracomusic.com. That's AERACO music.com. All of our social media links are on there. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, so you can find all the crazy stuff we've been doing. Facebook, AERACO, Aeraco. And then you can find the album on our website as well. It should be available through any retailer you got, iTunes, Amazon, CD Baby, Pandora, Google Play, all that stuff. So check it out, take a look. We're also up on YouTube. We got a single out. Well, the single is still up there. Most of the music should be up there. But Baptized by Fire, if you just kind of want to give it a taste, see what it's about, go hop on YouTube, check it out.